and gentlemen, welcome. Join us for the next session with no less than Sebastien Grosjean, the founder and owner of BookingSync and Smily. We're so excited to have him on this conference of AGL Profitability Hub 2020. And before we go anywhere, I would like to have Sebastien introducing himself, tell us where he is, what he's doing, and what he's up to for the future.
Thank you, Simon, for having me today, and thank you everyone for watching. So today I'm at home, big surprise, in Bratislava, Slovakia. So luckily with my two ladies, so that's a beautiful time. Young daughter of 2 months, so it's a perfect time to be grounded, I would say, and enjoy this family time. So overall, so where I come from, and maybe a little bit more about me. So I was born pretty much in the vacation rental world. My parents do that for more than 30 years. I have done it for more than 15 years on my side. And I'm also passionate about tech. I did my first website more than 20 years ago. And at the same time, I'm also a world traveler. I've been working remote and traveling more than 60 countries in the past 15 years and meeting hundreds, if not thousands, of property owners and managers all across the globe. So luckily that enabled me to combine all of this, my own experience, the feedback of everybody that I saw on the ground, and as well as the technology to make things as simple and useful as possible for our industry.
Thank you, Seb. And you just gave me the right intro for our title of our session today. We talk about technology-enabled optimization. And that is a huge topic, definitely post-COVID-19 as well. And prior to what has hit us, we talked about technology a lot, right? So we talked about margin compression by the OTAs. We talked about we need to build more efficiency to drive our business, and therefore technology is super important. So let me ask you first a sort of a more macro question. Has that changed in terms of when we look at, before the crisis came towards us, our industry pretty much came to a standstill, as we all know, and now we're getting slowly prepared what is coming after. Do you think that technology still plays the same part than it has before, and will it therefore after as well?
I actually think technology will become even more required than before, and the right set of technology. What I cannot say what will happen post-COVID, my prediction is that the competition will be quite tough. And we have seen a lot of the channels, a lot of the OTA has been hit quite severely. Some of them have some interesting choices and changes. So I think we realize more than ever that we really have to diversify, to protect our business, to ensure that we make profit, not only revenue, and that we fully own our business. So for that sense, technology is there to free us time, to help automate most of the activities so we can focus on actually taking the decisions that are really important for our business, focusing on scaling, focusing on customer satisfaction. But let the technology and the best possible you can with people that have the right expertise to work with you finally. At the end, the technology is a tool built by a team to be able to assist you, to help you on your day-to-day business.
Well, I'm so glad that you and I don't have the task to talk about the future of our OTAs today, as you just alluded to, and you've been very diplomatic, Sebastien, that some have some serious challenges, maybe even changes of CEO and whatever it might be. The press is full, but that's not our task here today. So we're trying to provide good content for our property managers, and who are the ones who actually do clean the toilet, not the ones who just create the marketplace. So I think you and I are in total sync, and you have been giving it since your birth. I mean, you are a true blue property manager. You've been given it to you as a child, even through your parents and everything else. So I have no better expert to speak to about these challenges. So when we talk about technology, and and let's have a closer look at the operational part of the property managers going forward. Which features are the ones preferred by your users? I mean, what are we looking for now? I mean, if we look at the verticalization between guests and owners, right? I mean, it's been totally crazy how we verticalized our industry with meta search, with channel managers, with guest communication, with guest automation, PMS, accounting, website builders, you name it. I mean, we have entirely verticalized this value chain. What are the users in terms of property managers now looking for really in terms of technology from your viewpoint?
So from what I see, it really depends where you stand. Whether you're a property owner or a property manager of medium size or enterprise, it's a different need. And so that's where whenever we provide our service, we try to serve everyone with the best way possible. So for instance, the first needs are usually around distribution. So for that, I would recommend to work with somebody that have direct connections and ideally like the state-of-the-art connection. You want something that connects to the OTA in the most clean and seamless way possible. As soon as you have that, you also want to extend with extra channels. And that means that you don't want to limit yourself only with a single channel manager or the channels of one PMS. It's good that you can expand that beyond, so you are reactive to the change of market as we see today, but we also have seen this a couple of times in the past as well. And on top of that, you want to make sure that you can customize a bit per channel. So this means that in some cases, especially the more enterprise you go, the more you are looking for to be able to have price differences per channel, maybe even your booking window, potentially even override your content because you target a different audience. So your message might be different. And as soon as you have that, that's where you want to go in, especially if you're enterprise, everything that is APIs that give you full control of the system. So you can use it as a set of tools, but finally decide what you do with them. And if you are more on the private owner side of full automation. So for example, with Smily, you don't have to think about channel management. It's something that we do entirely for you. It's just done. You don't think about it. And so that's where the range of features really depend where you are. As well, if you're a young business, usually you'll be okay with the most OTAs and you're looking at diversifying and scaling your activity and optimizing operation, which is great. When you get a bit longer in the business, you realize how important it is to do direct bookings. So you start to nurture your guests even more, collect the guest information. So you need definitely a strong CRM as well for that, to be able to retarget your customers, to have a great professional website, because you realize that as long as you depend on OTAs, you're also at their mercy. And personally, I like OTAs. I mean, I have the chance to be on a board of advisors of two of them, Airbnb and Booking.com. And yes, I'm there to be able to give a voice of property managers and owners so they can help direct and do things better. But let's not forget on the other side that the key customers is still the traveler. So that's when you are a property owner or manager, you have to make sure that you also protect your own business. You cannot just delegate everything. And that's where direct booking, customer ownership is absolutely crucial. And that also means that you have to handle direct payments, guest communication, all of the like. Now, if we go a little bit more in the higher spectrum, there is also more mature even property managers that will go in creating their own platform of exchange. We have seen this a couple of times, we start to see it now, but exchanges, marketing strengths between managers. So creating platforms that unifies this. This can be used by DMOs as well as Mode Present. And there is a lot of usage of that. That is great.
Well, there's a lot of segments in terms of technology. So you talked about distribution, depending on the size of the PM as well. Where is he focusing on? So I think distribution is something we could fill just entirely on our own, talk about distribution. And obviously this is something that is super important also going forward, but also you alluded to direct bookings, you know, where we want to be in the future. And there's a lot of other features as well. And so taking these in consideration, what you have mentioned, how can these features be leveraged for the local PM to get maximum for their business, depending on which features you're talking about? So let's pick up guest communication. I mean, we have our house automation, We have many other features that everybody wants to be part of and be able to allow. But thinking about post COVID-19, what features do you think, knowing this industry from your heart, are going to be most crucial to come back out of this tremendous impact of our industry going forward?
Yeah.
Where, like, excuse me to interrupt, so where would you set your priorities? I mean, as I said, we have endless amount of features that we could think about, and where would you give your advice to the property managers to where to focus on the features in terms of technology that is available?
Yes, thank you for putting a frame and some boundaries to that very wide topic. I mean, guest experience and communication is huge, and there is a lot to do. Now, the top recommendation I would do is retargeting your customer. So getting back to them post checkout. And that's something that I've seen too many business not use and don't leverage that. However, it means that you're actually throwing gold out the window. That's literally what you're doing. These guests, you paid a huge amount of money to be able to get them in your homes initially. And now that they are here, you have the ability to make them come back. They know your products, they know your brands, they know your service. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to just go back to them and offer them something extra. And the first thing, it's going to be already a discount if they book in direct. I mean, that sounds pretty logical. If you don't do that today, I would highly recommend to do that. At least they skip the OTA fees when they book in direct. And therefore, already here, you provide added value. But you can do even more than that. Keep the communication going, keep it flowing. The beauty of technology on this is that you can automate. You don't have to create it every time one by one. You have some technologies out there, and we have solutions for that, but many people do, where you can automate your retargeting. And that can be very smart, kind of an AI that is behind that will retarget based on their booking window or based on their segment, whether it's a family travel or a business travel. And therefore you have a communication that is extremely targeted, that have a high success rate. And for you, it's pretty much painless. It just brings back customer and brings back revenue with almost no work. I mean, it's just a setup time.
So you're basically saying that automating guest communication can have a massive impact for retargeting as well and bringing the customers back to you. How does that work in reality? I mean, how can you make that happen in terms of, you know, how can you automate your guest communication and how can you bring them back so they come book direct with you? How does that work?
So you would need tools that have been conceived this way if you want to do it in a way that is quite painless. You could just do a newsletter, let's say every month, that is targeting customers that came last year at this date or that booked last year at this date. That's certainly more appropriate. And target them. That's an easy way, let's say, if you don't have the right tooling. Now, for sure, through our solution, so through BookingSync or Smily, BookingSync you can fully customize. It's more made for enterprise. Smily is just everything handled for you, so you don't even have to worry about it. But there you have this automation that you can put in place, and you say, all right, every time I have a booking that was made a year ago, a year ahead, I will send a message again, a communication again. So it means that you know your customers that have a 1-year booking window, you retarget them 1 year ahead. And then you can customize this message based on whether it's a family travel, whether it's a business travel, and so on and so forth. So all this kind of setup, well, needs the right tool to do it. But when you have it, it's amazing. You really gain huge abilities.
So how does that compare? I mean, whenever we talk about technology, as you know, property managers associate that directly with cost as well, right? And then they have the choice between, you know, third-party distribution, direct distribution. I think post COVID-19 we see a lot more emphasis on direct distribution for other reasons in terms of cancellation policies, what has happened, how certain OTAs have handled their cancellation policies and have left property managers really stranded out there because they gave their priority to the guests. But apart from that, I think a lot of people will start to think about, hey, how can I be better at that without having to spend more money? So how does that relate to costs? And what is the main advantage to actually automate guest communication at the same time?
Yeah, I do agree. Direct booking is something that's gonna get back. I mean, we see trends around it. I think it takes work. That's why many people tend to get back just with OTA, because it's easy to some extent, or at least it was. Now, if you want to do direct booking and get good at it, you need a professional website, that alone. And for this, I would recommend more than just a WordPress plugin, but rather to use something that has been built knowing that industry, so you can leverage all the different benefits in terms of SEO, in terms of even structure on conversions. There is a lot of benefits to that. Now, your communication to adapt around it, well, it goes all around your brand. When you go with direct booking, you also promote your own brand. You promote who you are, you promote how you do business, what matters to you. I mean, you target people that are attracted to your business. And so that's something through OTA that has been very neutral over the time. So there is a bit with photos and your text, sure, but that gives little margin, let's say, to differentiate yourself. On the direct booking world, there is a lot more. So all your communication, whether that's through a website or through an email or an SMS or WhatsApp message that you send, all of these can be tuned to exactly what matters to you, what represents you, and what will touch the heart of your customers.
So looking at the booking process, where we have the ability to communicate with our guests, right? So we have sort of the search, the exploring phase, then we have the booking phase, then we have while we're in destination, and then we have post checkout. What is the most common use of post checkout messaging? I mean, trying to grab this engagement, and in the past, once the customer has checked out, which is hoping he leaves a good review, but I think that's where the customer is most valuable, probably while in destination as well. But what about what is happening post checkout, and what would you recommend as well?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would actually make a little distinction. When we look at post checkout for reviews, it's great, but I think we forget something very important. The review process and the quality of the review you will get starts on the booking journey by delivering the right expectation to the guest. If you have a description that doesn't match the service that you provide, you already shoot yourself in the foot. So it's important to have the right communication all along the way, so you get a beautiful review at the end and leverage that review moving forward. And we'll see, or that customer being satisfied moving forward, because at the end, that's what really matters, is a happy customer. And so to do this, what we usually recommend is to keep quick connection and often on the pre-arrival of the guest, but also during the stay. I mean, while you can provide upsells during the booking funnel, you can also do that pre-check-in during the stay, but also afterwards with different kind of returning customers. Now, regarding the review particularly, one thing that we implement for our own property management business is to ask one day before departure, how was the experience? And usually that mail alone, if they have some things that they don't feel good with, that's where they're gonna say it. And we usually also ask one day post check-in, what else can we do for them? Is everything great with the stay? What else do they need? Because we realize during check-ins, they're usually quite tired. So we don't want to spend too much time if they're not open to it. So a follow-up right a day after is perfect. A follow-up one day before is perfect. These two are definitely key to increase your satisfaction of your guest, your rating, and so the reviews that you can spread across afterwards to help also on direct bookings. To complement on what you were asking, what else can we do? Well, I think this smart retargeting is definitely one of them. I would highly recommend that. And you can also ask your guests to recommend them to share it with their friends, to say, well, look, Your friends, if they were to go to a property and book it on any OTAs, they would pay between 10 to 30% commission. If they go in direct, you make them save that money right then. They know it's coming from you. They know that they trust you. So they know that the experience is going to be closer to what they expect. So if you're able to communicate that with your guest, here you leverage the satisfaction that you have provided to your guest during the stay to be able to grow your business in a sustainable way.
Super interesting. And you just mentioned the word price, price and yield, right? So we talked about post-checkout, we talked about messaging through the funnel with the guest. And from my viewpoint, that makes a ton of sense. But now we're talking about yield and price rules as well. And I guess they're just as important, because obviously you need to capture the booking, and that is driven by your pricing rules and everything else. Can you allude a little bit more in how you view that particular piece when you're putting your information out to your users as well in terms of pricing and yield rules?
Yes. Yeah, I see. Pricing is a complex beast on its own. We see a lot of pricing optimization company coming up, and it's tough. We see they do an amazing job, and yet there is still a lot more we can wish. I mean, this thing is not easy. Now, one of the things an approach that we have liked and that we do is using a set of daily prices that will set your price on 90 basis or adjust your minimum stay. But however, personally, I'm on top of yield and rate rules on top of that. The benefit of this thing is that you can really push it to a different level. You can push the envelope of what's possible with your rate management. So a couple examples. One thing that I love, the market that I know most personally is the leisure area. Often in France, on the leisure area, you have weekly based stay. That has been historically the trend, Saturday to Saturday. Now, over the years, we realized there is a flexibility desired by travel. And if you were not available exactly during these days, you would not even show up in search results. That's a big problem. So a solution that we have implemented and that I would recommend anybody to leverage in this case is to lower your minimum stay, say 5 days, because if you go to 2 days, the expectation will not be right. Because the idea behind is even if the people come less days, they would still pay the 7 days. So if you're available for 7 days, the guest can find you for 5 of these days, book for 5 of these days, but pay you 7 days. It's a bit more pricey, but the expectation is still all right. The price per night is still not incredible. Now, the benefit of that is that you might end up with 2 days left, which might satisfy another guest that want to come just for 2 days. So you can end up booking twice the same night without having a double bookings, because we know that we don't want any of that. So this kind of rules is something that I've not seen any pricing optimization company handle out of the box today. Yet that's a benefit when you put a yield model on top of it. You can go crazy. There is this kind of things, and you can have it based on occupancy. So I know we quite love on our side to do these things and to really push it hard. And it's amazing. I mean, when you have these things set up, because it's just a one-time thing that you set up, then it just plays out on its own. And let's say crisis or not, everything will just play out based on how the market behave and based on making sure that you get back booking fast at a decent price and with a great experience. And of course, without ever lacking on your profitability, at least without knowing it consciously.
Well, it sounds too good to be true. And having been in the property management business myself since 2005, especially on a traditional way, I mean, it sounds amazing and makes a ton of sense, right? And so we're sort of talking about what kind of booking rules can enable us a better take rate, a higher margin, and a better revenue, a gross booking margin as well. And it makes a ton of sense. But we're also comparing this industry. You just alluded to more leisure industry. The leisure industry has been around for a lot longer. It's potentially also less sophisticated than the urban industry in terms of tech adoption and in terms of competitiveness as well. I mean, obviously the urban business has been super competitive, has had a lower margin, being heavily dependent on certain booking platforms and marketplaces as well. And the leisure market has been more protective. And one of the biggest challenges we have seen is really for the leisure market to sort of understand these upside opportunities that you have with what you just mentioned, you know, with the 7 and 5 day rule, and still have a window of selling another 2 nights on top of what you sold, because customers want flexibility. When I joined vacation rental in 2005 at Interhome, we had like, most of our properties were 7 days bookable only. And obviously we've come a long way from there. So my next question to you, having understood that, how do you see the adoption of that type of rule, and how do you see, is it a big challenge for BookingSync and Smily to get people understand that and become more sophisticated? How do you address that? I would love to hear how you play around with these more, you know, traditional leisure markets. I mean, even your parents have been in the business for a very long time, so you need to convince your own parents in adopting probably different rules than what they have had in the past. How do you tackle that?
Well, I guess an opportunity like we face now is, as sad as it is, it makes us think again on how we can optimize our business. And to me, now we are at a place where we have the opportunity to actually slow down, take a bit distance, and look where we have been running too fast, potentially in a wall, and correct a little bit, so we can actually get a more solid foundation and get a few things done that we just pushed on the back before because we never really took the time. So overall, it really depends on people, how you communicate to other people, how to do that. There's different ways, but overall, the real question is it the right time for you now to take action? Because at the end, I think what others do doesn't really matter. To anybody that is listening to this now, could now be a good time for you to take action and actually make sure your pricing will serve you as soon as there is a little takeoff coming back. Can you make sure that it's going to serve you whether we have another dip or not? I think that's a more appropriate way of thinking, so people can take ownership of the potential of actions they have right now.
So in terms of that, what has been missing, Seb? I mean, with all the experience that you bring to the table, what has been missing? What have we taken all our successes for granted, or, you know, what has been missed? We talked about tech adoption, we talked about distribution, we talked about how important technology is going to be post COVID-19 going forward as well, and pricing and everything else as well. Where do we put our focus? Guest communication, drive direct bookings. I mean, there's a lot of things we have already covered, but if you sort of look at post and pre, has it been too comfortable to run a business without having to think about too many different things? And where do you think the focus is going to be going forward?
Great question. Great question. It's not been easy pre-COVID, for sure. Vacation rental business is not something that is that easy. So personally, I tend to believe it's still part of the easy business. But that's certainly due to the past experience that I had the chance to get. But overall, there's still a lot of moving pieces. I mean, it's not something which is easy to grasp on all the different things that keep moving. So you usually tend to focus on what's the most important to get your business running and scaling. So that's usually how I've seen it happen. Now, when you face a crisis, is a time when you actually reconsider your foundation, unless you're really underground. If it killed you, sadly, that's where you decide whether you're going to start again or not. But if you are not, and if you can end strong, that's great. Or if you get hanging, hang on. There's still some hope. But it's a good time to reevaluate your foundation. And I think that's what we have seen with entrepreneurs that went through multiple crises. It's usually time to rethink the business, to optimize, trim a bit the fat, as you can say, and focus again, rethink what is the most important on your business. Where are the things that you have been finally too optimistic or too pessimistic? and call it tight and actually make the tough decision that you have been putting for later before. So now is a bit of a wake-up call, I think, that helped for this. And I believe direct booking is definitely one of the things that we're going to be like, yes, this is crucial, because we can't have so much booking dependent on an OTA that can just override our cancellation policy from one day to another, which is a massive threat for any business.
Absolutely. I mean, we have repeated it several times during our conversation. So if you go into the BookingSync Smily customer base, and if we're doing a bit of an arbitrage in terms of sophistication, what is the percentage where you would think that your customer base has a high adoption of technology and everything we talked about, and how much is still out there who could benefit a lot in actually maximizing this type of technology that is actually available out there for them?
Yeah. Well, everybody have a lot to benefit still. While the tool missed some features, some of them that are here are still underutilized by most of our customer base. And I take it on us. We definitely, I think, don't do enough to help educate and to help drive the adoption of these features, because they have been built very carefully and with very strong consideration to help business grow with strong foundations. So yeah, that's definitely on us to reconsider. And then again, as we see, different people have different paths, whether you're a property owner, a manager, if you are here since a short time or long time in the business, whether you're rural or leisure, you will usually take a different path to scaling your business. And so that's where, I guess, with the expertise and the amount of information we have, we could do a better job at driving this. And that's something that we are definitely ongoing, keeping on asking feedback on how we can improve. But yeah, overall, through the feedback I have done now towards the impact of the OTAs, because of that role I have with Airbnb and Booking.com, I went to take a bit of survey on the owners and managers that are working with us or not. And overall, I saw that our owners and managers feel less scared than the rest of the managers and owners. They are less dependent on some of the OTAs. So overall, it seems that the adoption is already much better than some others, because it seems much more solid in the way that they operate.
You talked about information, Seb, and I think that's an important piece to what we talked about in terms of pricing rules, yield and revenue management. I mean, you need to understand your market and everything else. And what we have seen at AGL Consulting in the past a lot, we hear a lot of answers. Hey, I know my market, don't tell me anything new. We believe that this is going to be super crucial going forward, and in most cases, they don't know their market. They don't know their comp set. They don't know what's really happening. They've been established 50, 200 properties in a local area, a local destination that they've been running in out of for a long time, but they don't really know the market. And I think it will only become more competitive. How do you view that in terms of market data? Is that a similar experience that you have?
Yeah, I agree. I agree that there is an understanding of market data that need to improve to get even further. And I think there's a need to accept to get help, as simple as that. So one quick fact, I was on a call with Tony Robbins. Many of you might know him. He's one of the world-known coach for life strategy and business coach. And so the 6 keys that he gave, so when we were on the call, is first, right now, so that was last week, it's time to mitigate and innovate. The second is to know your number and call it tight, a bit what we saw before. The third is to make tough decisions now. The fourth is to get help. Don't think that you know everything. Get help. The fifth is to brainstorm solutions and to try them out. And the sixth is to make sure that you remain in the best state possible, so that you, as an individual, as your family, remain in the best health, whether it's physical or mental, as you can, because that's where you will be able to drive the best outcome. So that being said, getting help. I mean, I believe I know that industry pretty well. Yet I was very happy to collaborate with you to actually rent your service, Simon, so I could get some angles, some views that I don't understand. And it has been a tremendous value. And I would definitely recommend to anybody, whether that's working with you or with different experts, definitely recommend your service, but there's many people out there, depending on what you're looking for, to actually use that. Sharing knowledge, getting to ask for knowledge that you might miss, or actually just ask because you might miss without even you knowing it, is crucial. I think we are in a time that will help us to get a stronger understanding, whether that's our direct market, whether that's our industry, whether that's to understand different industries, because they went through that before us. So why not to take some of their learnings? Yeah, I think there is a lot to do around information, and make sure the information is qualified and double check it and analyze patterns, because at the end, patterns will tell you more truths than a single advice.
Well, what can I say? Thank you so much. Seb, you've just stolen my last question. You already gave me the answers to it. Great summary from Tony Robbins. He's absolutely a legend. And I've enjoyed some of his videos and tutorials as well. Very inspirational, excuse me, and so are you, Seb. So I could not thank you more for being here with us today. It's been super inspiring what you've told us to the industry as well. And we're really excited that that's exactly what AGL Profitability Hub is trying to do. We provide content, we provide information so people can learn, reflect, innovate, and get out of this stronger. I mean, it's you know, we have no space on dwell on the situation today. We need to think strong about the future. We will come out stronger than we ever have as an industry, probably a little bit different than how we went into it, but certain disruption is not going to harm us for sure. So I would like to thank you, and I would like to thank the audience for listening to our chat today. It's been very inspiring, very informational, and I can only thank you, Seb, for being part of this today. And I'll give you the closing words. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Simon, for the opportunity to share today, but also everything that you do for this industry. It's truly amazing. It's a real pleasure every time to see what you share, to see people that you interview. I really, really appreciate that. So on one last recommendation I would do to property owners and managers, I understand that right now it's a very tough time. It's difficult. And so one thing that I would ask or recommend is to focus on your own health first. So there is a lot of challenge out there. There is a lot of family members that are affected. So this is the people that need help before any business. And so if in any ways they need help, you feel I can help as well in somehow, so feel free to reach out. LinkedIn is certainly the best way. But yes, take care of yourself. Take a moment to slow down, get back to your center, and then to think back on your business and how to get it strong. But yeah, strong within ourselves before we can get strong out there. I believe it's something that I've been so helpful for myself for sure, but for so many people that I have the pleasure to see on the entrepreneurship world, on the property manager world.
Thank you, Seb. I couldn't have done it better. Thank you so much. Stay safe, and thank you for being part of it today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.